Nick here, Overseas Custom. Today we're having a look at a kit from GP3D. As you can probably tell from the front, it's an old Grand Prix car here. So we've been wanting these for quite a while, so we finally managed to get one. So this is the kit here. All of the kit, apart from some of the hardware, is all 3D printed. We picked up the red Ferrari kit for ours, but they normally just come in white, but you can purchase less the shell and then pick your own colours. So as you can see here, everything is labelled very cleanly as to what everything is. Now, a lot of guys might be put off about 3D printed parts, but these are all nylon, glass fibres and carbon fibres, so they're all quite strong where they need to be. These are the parts here. We picked up the one that's almost ready to run version, which comes with a speed controller. Doesn't come with a speed controller, but it comes with the motor, the servo, which is here. And so basically all you need is your own receiver, speed controller and battery, which it fits a 2S shorty. So everything's pretty nice and labelled here. Comes with the old style Protoform tyres, which HPI did a variant of this as well. They come with these little plugs here which go into it to make them look like a vintage rim. So these are just the pre-mounts. So it sort of takes one step out of having to worry about glued tyres when you can get these already pre-mounted. Motor block here, very nice printed, very good quality. One thing I forgot to mention here, the bodies here are actually printed in TPU, so they are flexible. So they can soak up a bit of impact without having any issues. Once again, 3D printed, absolutely great quality compared to some of the other printed cars I've seen on the market. A few more of the parts here, and we've got the exhaust in here, even the little ignition cables for the engine, the trumpets. It's got so much detail, it's not funny. More of the parts here, brake discs, as you can see they're vented and everything. Scale driver, of course. That's actually got a working steering wheel, which is really cool to see. Other wheels, so there's actually two types of wheels here. You've got the narrows for the front and you've got the wides for the rear. And these will be some of the steering components here. As you can see, even these are 3D printed, these gears, and they are great quality. And then got your little bit of spares. You've got some sandpaper for smoothing up, suspension components to make sure that it's all free. There's the shocks here, just going to be a friction shock. Just some more hardware, mirrors. And these are some more sort of engine parts here. And then I believe these are the standard stickers you get with the kit, but we also got some to go with our Ferrari shelf. So we're going to go with the Chris Amon here. Many guys probably never really heard of him. He was a New Zealand Formula 1 driver. Claimed to be the most unluckiest driver ever because he never managed to win a race. He always broke down, or the most memorable one was that he pulled his whole visor off instead of pulling a tear off. So that's why we're going to go with him. Someone different. Actually met him in real life many years ago. So we're not going to sort of talk through this too much. We're just going to do a quick time-lapse video because there's a lot of parts to cover. Maybe in the next, we'll do another episode maybe and really break down everything. But for now, we're just going to get this put together. Okay, so to start, you're going to bring up your online manual here, which is very clear, very detailed. So if you follow these through step by step, you shouldn't have any issues. I'm sure if you contact them if you do have any dramas, but being 3D printed parts, I cannot stress just being a little bit more careful than you would be with injection molded parts, just to ensure that you don't damage or break anything, don't strip anything out. So take your time and you should be fine. Okay, so we got our front bulkhead together. The only main issue we had was just the little grub screw which went into this little gear here. It's probably a little bit hard to see. Obviously using a tiny little hex like this, if you put too much force it strips the head. It'd be nice to see maybe if they counterbored this and ran just a normal M2 cap head, because then you could use a proper driver on it and you wouldn't have that issue, but we got it in. Just had to make sure that you pre-tapped the hole through the gear before you did it. They show that in the manual as well, just to help. But lining up the little, as you can see on the end here, it does have a little indent where they're meant to line up, but it's very hard to see whether you're actually lined up. even with a flashlight on it, because if you've got a black part, black hole, you know, it's very hard to see. So all you can do is push these together and make sure you've got it tight and drive it in and hope for the best, because it's, you know, it's very hard to be sure that it's in properly. We did sand the back edge of this to make sure that it was going to go far enough back. So we've got all this together, so let's move on to the next step, which I believe is the front shocks. Okay, so we got the front shocks together. They were quite fiddly, I won't lie. Small tiny screws, big sausage fingers probably don't help, but you've just got to be very careful with this, especially when you're tapping into this end here, not to strip the thread out, because once you strip that out, you know it's game over. It's got an interesting design. They are quite hard, but I'm hoping they might break in a little bit. We did have to take them apart a few times, just because the little there's a little sleeve that goes in there, which is, I think it's a vinyl tubing, which the head rolls on, sort of wasn't pushed in all the way, and so obviously it popped out. So we had a few attempts to get these together, but we've got these now together, so let's get on to the next step. Okay, so the next part is basically getting some of the front end together. So we're going to take the front bulkhead from our first part, get this joined up to the chassis, and start getting the front suspension together. Okay, so now it's time to get our electrics installed. We had planned on using this Hobbywing 60 amp easy run. This is quite an old speed controller, and obviously the newer ones are a little bit smaller than this. There's no way this is going to fit. This is just something we had laying around, so we didn't purposely go out and buy this, so sort of it's not going to clear. So we ended up getting one of these off a mate of ours, this Surpass 25 amp. It'll be ample for the task. A lot of guys are actually running these already. I believe you can get these in a 45 amp as well. I think it's the biggest they can get, and as you can see, heaps of room. And this is the receiver here we've picked up. I think it's a DAS Micro, I believe. I'll leave a link in the description for this. It's still a 4-channel receiver to suit the Fly Sky. We run the GT5, but I believe it suits the newer Noble and a few other models that they do. It's 4-channel. They do come with the pins not soldered on, so if you really wanted to, you could cut all these wires to length and direct solder to give you more room, make it nice and clean, which I've had to do on my 24 scale. But for this application, we've got lots of room, sort of this can tuck in. So let's get all our wires cut to length. We'll obviously leave the motor wires for now, because they're probably about the right length when you consider once the motor's in place. Okay, so we've got all the motor details done. Spark plug wires here to the distributor, the trumpets, rocket covers, which look awesome. The exhausts are on. The headers are actually TPU, so they got some flex, so if you have an impact, it's going to soak up a bit of it. Just another thing to note, we mocked up our motor, just sat it there, and then discovered our wires were actually too short, so we had to extend these. So if you guys are buying the Surpass one, make sure to grab some, I believe it's 18 gauge wire. Yep, 18 gauge wire. You may have to extend them. If we'd known that, we would have extended the full length from the speed controller, but we just added a little extension here, which is about 50 mil or so that we had to add. Would be nice to do it clean all the way from the ESC back, fresh wiring, but we couldn't be bothered trying to pull everything back apart again. This will get hidden by the body, I'm sure, anyway. So you start to get an idea now what it's actually going to look like. If we slide this in place. Everything there, starting to look like a car. So next up we've got to work on the gearbox, and then off the gearbox is going to be a rear suspension, and then we're sort of on the home straight. But we're going to cut this video a little bit short here. It's taken a little bit longer than what we thought, so we're going to split this into 2 parts. So keep an eye out for the next video. Until then, have a good one.